Hello and welcome to Kicking Tires. My name is Jimmy.
And I'm Justin.
Today we got some electric vehicles to go over, starting with Mercedes. Oh, I did not bring up Mercedes. Mercedes AMG. They released some specs on some future vehicles. Basically, two different types of powertrains: a 4-liter V8 with a really awesome hybrid technology, as well as the 2-liter inline 4 with a really awesome hybrid technology in it. Mercedes says that this is
Proprietary?
prioritizing. Wow, I still can't say it.
Wow.
I'm having a meltdown here. Anyways, it's performance over range.
Yeah.
It's not designed to be a full EV, but it is a stupendous amount of power that they're allowing you to have. In the 4-liter V8 configuration, you can get up to 800 horsepower. 800.
Yeah, and that supercar looking thing.
That would be amazing. Can you think about an 800 horsepower road car and something like a CLS or
Yeah,
the
or the
AMG
AMG GT 4-door.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is definitely the way of the future. I mean, we're going to see more and more of these. It's cool to see Mercedes leading the charge, for lack of a better term, on electrification in kind of the mainstream. You know, we've seen it obviously with 918 and all those other hypercars with e-torque and stuff, but this is taking it to a next level. This is like a whole second motor. It looks like when you see the cutaway, it looks like it's two separate engines. It's like that what's that concept, that Golf from HPA that has the dual motors.
The two motors, one in the front, one in the rear.
This is what that looks like. Insane power, and this power is going through a 2-speed transmission in the rear axle.
Yep.
So all really crazy tech, and we're going to see this probably. We won't see too much on the higher end, but where this technology is going to trickle down to is that C63. We were rumored to have that 4-cylinder with the electrification, and so we don't know exactly how much power that's going to put out, but we're going to see this kind of tech in that car. For sure.
Just to clarify, not the 4-liter V8, but a 2-liter inline 4, the same ones that's used in the CLA 45 to turn sideways, propelling all 4 wheels still, but with the electrification on the rear axle.
Yeah, it'll be nuts. I think the C63, that's going to distinguish it from the M3 and the RS5 for sure. The RS5 is kind of an afterthought now. RS4, RS5. It's not competitive in any way. And I think the lap times, I remember seeing a comparison, and the lap time was it's like behind an X5M, and it's not doing so well, that car. Mercedes C63, it was never about the track performance and stuff, but I think that this car is going to make a difference. I think it's going to go in a different direction for Mercedes, and the weight distribution is all going to be pretty neat. One thing that we didn't really like about this setup is that it looks like it will eat into the practicality of this vehicle. Like it going again to this cutaway, it's
right here.
It's big,
Yeah, the battery sits on top of the rear motor. From the picture, it basically looks like that's going to be in the trunk. If you ever seen like a picture of Polestar 2, you've seen how little trunk space there is, and it's taken up by that battery back there. That's basically what this looks like. I mean, they still have to have a gas tank, as there is still internal combustion engine in the front. So that's going to be situated probably underneath the rear seats, as it normally does. So there really isn't a whole lot of room inside this package. Thus, why we think it's going to have less practicality than the current vehicle.
It's going to be pretty compromised. as you can see there, the AMG high performance battery is stacked on the very top. And if you could only see the left half of that picture, that looks like a typical front wheel drive transaxle setup. With the engine surpassing the top of the upper strut mount. Uh, that that's a big boy.
Yeah, I don't know where I wrote it, but I wrote it down somewhere where there it is. The electric motor, actually, sorry, for the 2-liter 4-cylinder, because of the size of the turbo, you're not going to have peak boost right away. But to increase its efficiency, it actually has an electric motor mounted to the same shaft as your turbocharger. So it's able to give you an electric boost beforehand. No, this is not talking about electric superchargers or electric turbochargers. This is an actual electric motor that spins up that turbo, giving you better throttle response and the immediacy that you get with the turbo. That's actually really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different there's different drive modes. So there is a full-on EV mode. They don't say like how much range it'll give you, but you can drive up to 81 miles per hour. That's plenty for most use cases of pure EV range. But for sport or sport plus or race mode, it does configure and change how the electric motor is used for maximum performance or even maximum decel if you need it to. But I think it's cool. I think it's one of those things that I'm excited to see. And like you said, this is definitely a different direction than most performance manufacturers are taking. Like the M3, the new M3 that we see, it's still
very much the same recipe, but with bigger grills.
Much bigger grill.
Yeah. Whereas this is completely flipping the script. It is, for the C63 at least, this is going to be very, very cool. I think. Hopefully it works out, right? Like C63 has always been terrible on gas, and so this changes that at least. Hopefully, since there will be a full EV mode. That battery doesn't look that big. Is this 70 kilowatts? Or that's
I have no idea how big it is.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing. Oh, I'm sure it says somewhere. I just don't remember. Oh, there it is. It's a 6.1 kilowatt hour. But it's 70 kilowatt of continuous power is what you saw.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. That's really it for Mercedes AMG. Let's move on to full electric vehicles. Kia has released a full electric vehicle here. This is called the EV6. It's the same platform as the Ioniq 5 that you saw from Hyundai. I believe that was last week. But this looks so much better than the Ioniq. The Ioniq looks like just a plain old Golf with some fancy metal on the side. This actually looks like Mach-E.
Very dynamic. Yeah, it's
Jaguar
got that
I-Pace.
Forward-facing look to it. The Ioniq is definitely a lot more conventional, but yeah, this just looks sporty.
Mm-hmm. And it is sporty. I mean, it's able to accelerate to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.5 seconds. Top speed of 260 kilometers per hour. That's 161 miles per hour. It's actually a relatively quick little EV, or not so little. Sorry, because the wheelbase on this is 2,900 millimeters, or actually bigger than their Hyundai Sorento. So it's actually quite large. It's
full-size SUV dimensions, length and width. Look at those seats, though. Those are neat.
Oh, those are
I don't know if those will make it to production. Yeah, but it is, again, this is taking electrification and trying to engage some of the enthusiasts. Like that seat and those numbers, they're nothing to slouch at. And I think it's going to excite a lot of people into embracing our EV future.
Here's something that I saw that kind of disappointed me. The sunroof, it's just a standard sunroof size. It's not a panoramic sunroof that you normally get in a lot of new cars. Why? Give me more glass. I want more glass, especially with a higher belt line that it has. it's going to be a darker cabin.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, things that I think about now that, I my daily driver has been a CX-30. It has a darker cabin inside because of higher belt line and everything. That's just something that I noticed. But yeah, it does have 800-volt fast charging. If, of course, you're able to find a charger that is able to do that. But it basically can do 10% to 80% of charging in 18 minutes. And full charge, you get about 510 kilometers of range. And of course, there's 3 different trims. There's a base EV6, there's a GT line, as well as a full-on GT, which is this one. Not here, but here. Yeah,
There is just one little weird thing that I'm not a big fan of with the Kia styling, and I'm not sure if you can guess what it is, but it's also on the Stinger, which is that little extension of the taillight on the side there. For me, it makes it look maybe a little bit overbitey, or I don't know, overbite, underbite, but it just, in some angles, it just doesn't work. This one is not as strange and out of place as the Stingers is, but I think I don't know how it works with the overall shape. The rear's got a very, the whole taillight is angled towards the back, but then you have this random side marker that's, I don't know. I see what they're trying to do is to connect that line that's, just above the side skirts there, but it doesn't work for me, personally speaking.
It kind of looks like a Supra spoiler. That's just
the band.
Yeah, if you just think of the Supra spoiler, like not an actual light, but like the spoiler itself, that's kind of what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone in terms of the looks. I think in like looking at this versus the Ioniq, this is 100 times better. The Ioniq just bland and boring. This at least is something a little bit more unique and different. Yeah. Well, moving from Hyundai, or actually not Hyundai, moving from Kia to Genesis. Genesis has released a brand new car.
This is just mind-blowing. Like another one of these EVs, just as I said, to really stimulate enthusiasts. This is just visually just so captivating, I think. And it's got those Genesis elements. We've got those 2-bar headlights and that crest-shaped grille, but just the proportions are just phenomenal.
Yeah. This is the Concept X, or Genesis X concept, and it does look amazing, doesn't it? Like, that's not something that you see every day. I mean, I gotta be honest, when I look at any Genesis vehicle, even the current ones that's on the road, the GV80 and the brand new G80, I love the way they look. They're really designed very well. The proportions work for me. It's one of those like companies that will succeed, given like just to give it a little bit more time. At the time, like right now, it's hard for them. I mean, there's already like good, like high-end luxury brands in the market: Lexus, Acura, Cadillac, BMW. Like there's tons of brands coming in here with like no history. It's hard. It's not like the 90s when Lexus did it. This is many years after. So
back when Lexus came in at a time when quality was not that great across the board, and they really shook things up there. But Genesis, Hyundai's leading. They've got an EV, which is kind of nice. This is going to be an EV base concept. We don't know if it's coming to production, but I think visually speaking, it is way more attractive to me than even anything from Aston Martin, anything from Maserati these days. Maybe not the Roma, but a lot of these conventional supercars, exotics, whatever you want to call it, they've kind of phoned it in for the last few years. I mean, Maserati's 2-door coupe is how many years old now? Aston Martin, like, I don't know, they don't have the same grace and elegance they used to, in my opinion, and they've yeah, that one doesn't work for me. This one has brand identity and really killer proportions. As far as a GT car, same with Bentley, right? Bentley Continental, we talked about it last week. That still looks the same as it did 20 years ago, which, honestly, back in 03, 04, that was pretty neat. But times have changed.
Mhm.
We don't all need a house on wheels, and electrification is the future. I think they have the right idea here with Genesis.
Mhm. They definitely do. I'm going to be releasing the Genesis GV80 video next week, and must say it's one of my favorites so far this year. Actually, the AJAC, the Automotive Journalists Association of Canada, named GV80 the best luxury SUV of 2020, I think it is, or 2021. I
It's
don't
no
know
surprise. I mean, they're punching above their weight class. You're getting a lot of value for your money, and they know they have to do it. At least at this point in Genesis, where they are right now, they have to offer you a lot more value for your money, which you're getting not only in terms of tech and features, but also styling, as you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I can't think of any European car under 100 grand that looks better than this, right?
No, definitely not. When I was driving around the GV80, I was getting compliments. When I picked up pizza, and then the guy, he he was driving along beside me or behind me. When I pulled over, he pulled up in front of me. He got off his car and be like, "Hey, that's the fake Bentley, right? That looks amazing."
It looks better than the real Bentley.
A
The
guy
real
had to
Bentley is kind of awkward.
a guy had to pull over in front of me to jump out of his vehicle and tell me that the fake Bentley looks amazing. And then he looked around it. It was his first time seeing it. He was so intrigued by this fake Bentley. I mean, I was flattered, of course. Someone looking at my car, I always feel great about it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean it. We make fun of it as a Gentega or fake Bentley, but it actually has its own look to it. It's just
Absolutely.
got those proportions that look a little bit like the Bentayga, but yeah, it's ironically the Bentayga is what I just said. It's carried over design from last decade. You know, that's that's where the Genesis kind of really steps it up.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's really comparing the two. To be fair, I think in terms of ultimate luxury, the GV80 is not at the Bentley level,
No,
but
definitely not.
yeah,
When you step inside, you don't smell complete cow like you would in a
yeah,
Bentley. So yeah.
yeah. But no, it's really cool what they're doing. I think it's such an up and coming brand, and they're great because they have, you know, the pipeline of funding from Hyundai
Mhm.
that similar to how Lexus has Toyota. Um, they can kind of push the limits a little bit. They don't have to make insane profit margins to survive because I mean, a car like this is not going to be a volume seller.
No,
GT coupes are just not that great. Let's
not at
let's
all.
take a look at the interior. Just that's important on a Genesis, which this looks production ready to me. Uh, it's a different look compared to the other Genesis we've seen so far.
Mhm.
I made a comment, which is it has that Corvette shape and orientation that we see on the C8 Corvette, but obviously with way better materials. And interesting point about the materials, they are all upcycled because Genesis is all about a sustainable future, which I think is really neat. Like the textures, they look pretty sick.
Yeah, absolutely love
Yeah,
it. If this comes into production, oof, the illuminated logo on your steering wheel. Oh,
yeah. This thing does have a little bit of a Grand Theft Auto vibe to it. I'm just gonna put that out there. It looks like something that is you know, somewhat of a culmination of other models out there, but it's just so unique as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks really
Um,
long.
it does look pretty long. Moving to another vehicle.
Back to the real world. This is
Yeah,
something that's available in the very near future, unlike everything we've talked about
something you
so
can actually
far.
buy. Is the
Yeah,
new Subaru Outback Wilderness Edition.
yeah,
The Outback is Subaru's best-selling vehicle, not the STI, not the Forester. The Outback is. It's single-handedly kept the wagon basically going. I mean, if you can still call it a wagon, some people say it's an SUV. But the Outback is absolutely cool, and this Wilderness adds on to that cool factor. Um, Higher ground clearance, 9.5 inches. You got some different trims here and there. But the thing that you have to know is this comes standard with all terrain tires. It has a mild lift and is ready to hit the trails.
yeah. I mean, we're seeing overlanding becoming a huge thing, especially with COVID. Uh, Everyone wants to go out, but you can't. You're not going to resorts. You're not going to any crowded areas. With the wilderness and camping, there it just makes sense in our current times. Overlanding's been up and coming for last almost a decade, I would say, but this definitely you can see is targeted to that audience. It's not for rock crawling and like
No.
extreme off-roading, but it is capable on those trails. Yokohama Geolandar tires, like not the most exciting and a little bit disappointing, in fact, that the size has not changed at all. This is supposed to be your most off-road capable model. They're putting skid plates on this thing.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, same size tires. That to me is a missed opportunity there. And Yokohama
But
Geolanders, like, why?
so, I mean, when you lease this vehicle, those are the wheels and tires that you get with it. You keep them aside. So when you return the lease, it's there for you. What you do is you call up my friends at Overdrive, which you may know of. And then you tell them, hey, I want some wheels and tires for my Outback. And then you get them a set of like method wheels with big
Oh
knobbly.
yeah,
Uh,
we have a set coming in next week. Actually, 15-inch Method MR 502s for a Forester. Can't wait to see what that looks like. Currently, the owner is on chrome wheels and it looks disgusting, but we're gonna put some nice methods on his Forester next week. So, yeah, stay tuned to our social for that. But yeah, I mean, those fog lights are pretty neat too.
yeah,
LED fog lights integrated into the bumper. They look quite durable,
the
which is
hexagon
nice.
shape. I doubt there'll be like actual use for them, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, not the best for light output, but how do we feel about these gold accents too?
I don't mind them because I always like accents on cars. Um, the fact that they went gold is definitely more like different, I would say,
It's a
than
little bit
most.
WRC, Pro
Yeah,
Drive and
just a
whatever.
little bit of a, it's a wrong blue for the gold.
It is.
But I would say it's better than orange or red that other people are doing.
Yeah, red is the easy color to do, but yeah, the gold is out there. But people buying the Outback, they're not looking for conventional typically. They want something that shakes things up. Uh, and it's a super practical, one of the things they talked about is how much weight this roof rack can support. It's got a way beefed up roof rack compared to the standard
Mhm.
Outback, I think.
It does.
Um,
700 pounds.
700 pounds. So definitely, heavy duty enough for your typical tents and multiple people sleeping up there. But it's an Outback. It's got a really long roof and long trunk. You can sleep in the back as well. Um, they have some pictures of it doing some rock crawling, but yeah, I mean, drivetrain wise, we're gonna have a better crawl ratio, but
Yeah.
it's
So
still not that powerful. I think it's got the 2.4 turbo actually,
it's a
which
2.4 turbo, so it makes 260 horsepower and 277 torque. When I drove the Outback earlier in 2020, I think it was,
Mhm.
I thought it was okay. Paired with the CVT, it just didn't feel sporty enough. But in the Ascent, it felt a little bit better because of the final drive ratio. And luckily for us, this has the Ascent's final drive ratio and a revised rear axle ratio as well to actually increase the performance. So this should be the fastest Outback.
Yeah, I mean, we're running the same size tires with a more aggressive gear ratio. It makes sense.
And you can still tow 3,500 pounds, so that's not bad.
Yeah, totally respectable. I mean, it's more than what you would tow to a trail, and you can tow a small boat, ATVs, with that, no problem.
Yeah.
Bikes, all that lot. Yeah.
The only thing that to me it's a little weird, it's that hood decal. The blacked out hood. I mean, it's supposed to be so that you don't get that reflection off your hood into your eyes. It's a stripe in the middle. It's not going to help that much. Let's be honest here. You find this a lot on like Jeeps. I think on most of the Trailhawks, you get a blacked out hood, but on the Jeeps, it's actually like the full hood. This is a strip down the center. It's not going to help. It's really not going to help. I mean, if you're going to do that,
let's pull up a picture of the standard 2021 Outback just to do a little side-by-side comparison, because we've got really beefed up fender flares. That to me is a little bit awkward too, the way the bumpers are designed. The cladding doesn't look quite as well integrated as it does on the standard Outback, which I think the standard Outback looks great. I think it looks rugged enough without being too over the top. This to me, it's a little bit too busy and a little bit tacky, but yeah, we're able to find.
Yeah, I'll pull that down right now, so I'll have it kind of side by side. I mean, horrible image, but
yeah,
you can kind of see.
So the front, the plastic goes up to the headlight all the way there, so it kind of blends in. But then they've left that little splash of paint between the fender flare, so that to me is a little bit strange.
Yeah, it actually kind of reminds me a little bit more like Crosstrek with the flares that it has, because the standard Outback doesn't have those flares. The track is a little wider, but overall look, like I like the grill. That's something I definitely do like comparing to the regular one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bumper on the front and the rear looks off, because the rear bumper, see if I can find a better image of it here. The rear bumper, yeah, it goes, the plastic bits go all the way up to the tail light, whereas the standard Outback, it doesn't. It just
and that offers all the protection, quote unquote, that you really need. Right. So I feel like they've gone a little bit too far on that one. You know why this looks awkward is because we had that Impreza Outback back in like 2010. That I don't think they actually sold it in Canada, but it was just painted, and it's just too much of a different color, and not done in a way that really benefits the vehicle or the actual function of the vehicle.
Yeah. Let me
2010 Impreza Outback. That was probably the worst of the Impreza.
It was this one. It was generally they came in silver.
I don't know why they did that.
It was
yeah. This is the same company that thought this would be a good idea, is to, hey, let's do body painted fender flares.
Yeah.
I mean, not even flares.
They really didn't
a body painted accent.
They really didn't think that through, especially like the silver on silver when it doesn't match at all. It just looks wrong. Like I mean, this isn't as bad if it was red and with the silver like kind of outline. At least it's not as bad. But yeah, like the generation before it, at least it looked a little bit better with like the outline and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah,
no, the original one is a lot better, and like the one from the late 90s is also a lot better. The
Yeah,
but yeah, I think Subaru kind of they have a history of somewhat awkward fender flares, and I think the Wilderness does have a little bit of an awkward look to it, but it's completely different, which is kind of nice.
yeah.
You know,
I think the side flares is okay. I like actually how the side flare looks. What I don't like is just how many shapes there are on there.
mm-hmm.
If we look at the back of the front fender here, it seems to have like a few different slants
Just
and angles
the
on
lines don't line up.
it.
Like, yeah. And one thing I did point out was the car has no inverter, which I think is
Yeah.
really disappointing for an overland build. Like, at least something to charge, your phone, walkie-talkies, whatever. It doesn't need to power a microwave, but having some kind of inverter is kind of standard these days for an overland rig.
Mhm.
Um,
I
yeah.
mean, you still get the 12-volt socket in the back,
Mhm.
but it's the 12-volt socket has like a limit to how much it can power. So a
Yeah.
larger inverter, you're not going to be able to run that. You're probably going to run a larger inverter off the battery itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's about it for the Outback. And I think that's about it for the news this week. Anything else you want to go over?
No, I think that should be good for the Outback. Let's talk about the BMW 228i.
Yeah. So this week we released the BMW 228i Grand Coupe review. It is the Mercedes CLA Fighter, which your mom just got one, right? The CLA 250.
Yeah.
So this is a direct competitor to that. And like the CLA, this is a front wheel drive based vehicle. You can get it what they call S drive, which basically is a fancy name for front wheel
Front wheel
drive.
drive, two wheel drive in BMW lingo.
Yeah, but the one I had here was the X drive model. So it does send up to 50% to the rear.
Yeah.
Driving it though, honestly, I can say it feels fine. You 90% of the time that you're driving it, you don't have that, you're not pushing it hard enough
Well,
to make
and
use
that's the
of.
thing. A lot of all the BMW purists are like, you can't do that. Like, this is not a real BMW. It's a front drive based chassis. But BMW's had a good history with Mini, making pretty fun to drive front wheel. I would say above average in terms of fun to driveness. Cars with the Mini lineup. So I think I don't see any problem with this being front drive based. I will say, compared to the CLA, this has a very front heavy look to it. The CLA is a lot more grown up, a lot more stretched out, and just with this latest generation looks more premium to me, and looks more like a CLS, and has pretty much the same proportions as a CLS.
Yeah,
This to me still looks front drive base. I don't know what it is about the lines, but yeah.
so what it is really the hood itself. The hood is very tall. So if you look
Yeah.
at where the wheel lines up and all the way to the top of the hood, there's a huge chunk there. If we look at the 330, it's a lot lower. If we look at any other BMW, it's a lot lower. It's the hood line. That's what really kills it. But they have to, put the 2-liter 4-cylinder in there. It's mounted, sideways because it's a front wheel drive vehicle. It's exactly like a Mini underneath, but the Mini is able to hide that hood line because of that kind of.
The headlights and the grill are a little bit higher up, whereas they had to go for that sharp coupe nose on this thing, which is kind of made it look a bit more front drive. I think it still looks good. Originally I hated this car when we first, this is the new 2 Series. People were upset, myself included, that okay, this is not the same as what we're used to with the 1 Series and the 2 Series, but it's grown on me. I think it looks good. The X1 always has looked good to me, and that's been out for quite a few years. I think it's still a good looking car. But yeah, the way they've shaped the nose of this gives it a bit of a marsupial look. Yeah, big brakes on that thing though. Holy
huge crap. Brakes.
And this is just a 228.
Yeah, so it has the M Performance brakes package on it. So under this, because it's winter right now, or well, kind of was wintry when I got the vehicle. It still has the 18s on there, so there's less clearance, but it looks like there's massive braking power under that, and there is. Like when I slam on the brakes, it stops. Like it actually feels really good.
Yeah, but yeah, just like the CLA, this is a traditional, more of a sedan type coupe, not like the 4 Series or the S5 Sportback where you have you know, a hatchback. This trunk looks quite small. There you have zooming into it. It looks smaller than what's on my M2, to be honest. At least
It's
in
about
terms
the
of
same
width.
as a CLA. I think it was like 14 or so cubic feet.
Yeah, the CLA's is quite long in my, if I remember correctly, but this looks like reasonably long as well. But yeah, the rear headroom on this is pretty bad, but so is the CLA.
CLA
But
is not much better, but
yeah, the thing is,
this
Mercedes, you have options.
this getting into it was a lot better than the CLA. The CLA's roof line, or the window line, I should say, actually like comes down a lot further and a
Yeah.
lot steeper than the 228.
Yeah, I think the thing about Mercedes is if you go for the CLA, you took that styling over practicality. They have the traditional A-class sedan, which
Yeah.
is pretty much identical but without the compromise,
Yeah.
and also the hatchback. So you kind of you're taking that choice yourself, whereas this is what you get from BMW.
Yeah.
There's no coupe version, there's no hatchback version, there's no
Well, there's no
sedan.
hatchback for us
Oh, yeah.
because you can get the 1 Series hatch in,
Right.
well, rest of the world really, and we just don't get that here.
Yeah. There is, however, a crossover option. So if you do
Yep.
favor practicality for the same money and pretty much very similar features, there is always the X1 and the X2. So
Yeah, it's not much more money. That's the thing. An X1
yeah.
is literally $1,000 more than the base 228 with the front drive. An
Yeah.
X1 with all-wheel drive, because that's standard, is cheaper than the base 228 with X drive.
Yeah.
So you're
This
really paying
interior
for
is
styling.
a little bit newer interior, I think, on this one.
You do get the upgraded interior. It's
Yeah.
the next generation of BMW interiors with
The
the
nice
better
cluster.
infotainment, the digital cluster. So you do get like a lot of newer BMW stuff in here. But overall, like in terms of driving, in terms of practicality, the X1 makes a lot more sense.
Of course. So you do technically have options.
Yep.
X2 still got that older, kind of more like the F30,
Yeah.
F20 style interior. So this is that newer school look. But yeah, I have no complaints about this. I think, well, aside from the price. Right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the price. I think you're gonna complain about because this one's almost 54,000 Canadian dollars.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money for a very small car.
It is. It is. You're paying for the badge at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They know. I don't know if this car is taking off though. The Mercedes A lineup, I think we're seeing a decent amount of out there, but I don't know if this 2 Series
I haven't
is.
seen it.
If anything, though, probably from BMW's eyes, they're like, this is selling better than the 2-door coupe that we had.
It's better. It's selling better than we
Than
thought.
the
So
previous
it's
228. This is selling, but I think you mentioned it in the review too. Is like you can touch a 330i for this kind
Yeah.
of money, and the 330i is just a better vehicle overall.
Yeah, you can get a brand new 330i for under 50,000. Of course, that is the base. You're gonna tack on options, but if you only tack on just a little bit,
He's still under 60, I think.
Yeah, it's under 60.
One,
it's not a lot more than this, but you get a much better car overall.
Yeah, it just looks, very timeless. I love the current generation 3 Series. I've liked every 3 Series so far, but I think this generation in particular, it's pretty solid.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think just within BMW there is competition for this vehicle. I don't know if it makes sense to have this segment so much in Canada, North America,
Yeah.
just because of where stuff is priced at.
Well, in North America, we don't like small cars. Small cars don't excel here. SUVs generally do, and bigger and larger vehicles do. So people are probably going to gravitate towards the X1 and the X2 a lot more than this. I mean, it's just how people in North America would buy their vehicles.
Yeah.
But
or even the Mini Countryman.
Yeah, the Mini Countryman, you get the exact same underneath, really, and you get a lot of the mini quirkiness to it, like the fancy mini interior and whatnot, which some people may like.
Yeah, it's got charm to it. At least it's like unique. Yeah.
Is it unique though? Now that it's been doing it for 20 some odd years.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's about it. Anything else you want to go over today?
No, I think that should be it. Last week's episode, I think we got some feedback. We had our heated discussion last week.
Just a little
bit. Yeah, no, I think people were engaged on that topic. We might talk about it more in the future as events develop. We are keeping an eye out on the news out there in terms of what's happening in that whole VI realm. When there's something newsworthy and confirmed, we will definitely cover it.
Definitely. Well, in any case, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.
Thanks.